find disgusting, stinky goo, what better place to look than the dump? It's also a strange place to find the next contender in our countdown of extreme slime balls, the toad. It's quite happy in this bacterial brew of filth and decay. That's because its skin is covered in a protective coating of slime. It's hopped into number 8 in the countdown because scientists have discovered that it produces a mucus that contains a cocktail of truly amazing chemicals. And if you know how, it's easy to get a sample of slime. The next contender in our countdown of extreme slime balls doesn't have to go to the hairdresser to get a spiky coat. It has a very different reason to have goo spread on its head.
That's lovely, thank you very much. Just what I wanted.
There's no need for slimy hair products when you're a hedgehog. Nature's very own punk rocker is number 7 in the countdown because it's found another most unusual use for gooey substances. Occasionally, when it's out hunting for insects, it might come across something that smells really disgusting. But instead of leaving it alone, the hedgehog starts licking it. It will lick and chew and bite, and then perform the most extraordinary contortions to start spreading the spit across its spines with its tongue. It gets so carried away, it works up a real lather of foamy saliva. Nobody's quite sure why the hedgehog carries out this unique self-anointing. Some researchers think that it repels parasites. Others have suggested that since the hedgehog's saliva takes on the smell of the object it bites, by smearing the goo onto its back, the hedgehog can disguise itself with an odor so repulsive it will scare away predators. And this could be why, back in the Middle Ages, people believed that hedgehogs carried apples on their spines and would take them back to the den to eat. It's a nice story, but since hedgehogs are insectivores, it's more likely that the answer lies in slime. Some scientists believe that if a hedgehog wanders into an orchard, it could be overwhelmed by the smell of rotting apples. This could trigger a bout of frenzied self-anointing, and in the middle of its contortions, the hedgehog ends up wearing an apple. Scientists are now confident that fruit's no longer a fashion accessory for hedgehogs, but they're less certain about just why it wants to get lathered in smelly slime in the first place. At least far more is known about just how important goo is for our next slippery contender. Number 6. Sliding in to number 6 in the countdown is the snail. It's more famous for its slime than its speed, except in Conham, England, home of the World Snail Racing Championships. More than 200 thoroughbred snails are raced over this 13-inch course. Ready, steady, slow. The organizers know that to have an exciting race, the white tablecloth must be kept nice and damp. They use a watering can to facilitate the best slimy conditions, because without mucus, these snails will go nowhere fast. Even in perfect conditions, it will take a racing snail more than 2 minutes to complete the course, traveling at a breathtaking 0.01 miles per hour. scientists analyzed the way snails move, they discovered that the slime produced by glands on the muscular foot had amazing properties. Although the mucus is about 96% water, it also contains a few special proteins. These molecules make the slime sticky when the snail pushes down on it using just moderate force. But if it pushes harder, the crosslinks in the proteins break apart and the mucus becomes a slippery liquid. Remove the force and the proteins bind back together and the slime returns to being sticky. That's how snails defy gravity. They can use sticky slime to cling upside down. Or if they push a little harder, they get a nice slippery surface so they can move a little faster. Unfortunately, this amazing mucus is expensive to produce. When snails eat, 70% of the energy obtained from the food goes straight into making slime. But for snails and some researchers, it's well worth the effort if you can create one of the world's most extreme all-terrain vehicles.
The last one is actually working.
Just ask Brian Chan and Pico Hosoi from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They've created artificial snail slime. They hope to one day design a vehicle that will mimic the slimy movement of a snail, so that it can climb over all kinds of topography. But at the moment, they're testing with a simple flat track, and the strangest snail in the world. Robo-snail moves using separate foot panels to mimic the undulating movements of a real snail. By sticking down its rear panels, it can push the rest of its body forward, then anchor the front and pull up the rear. Robo-snail can't move on a dry surface. However, thanks to a little artificial mucus, the researchers hope that, just like a real snail, it will even be able to move upside down. It would be hard to pick a winner in a race between this robot and a real snail, because moving on mucus isn't about speed, but versatility. It's actually not a very efficient way to travel. Sliding along a slime trail is thought to use 10 times more energy than other animals use when they run, swim, or fly. That's why snails have found another use for the goo that's so metabolically expensive to make. If you move at a snail's pace, predators will have no trouble tracking you down. And sometimes, a shell just isn't enough defense against a hungry beetle. The snail is number 6 in the countdown because it uses its slime for both movement and defense. Who's gonna eat you when you're covered in ghastly goo?
Our last 2 contenders have found that slime can be a really useful form of defense. But would you be willing to cover yourself in goo if it protected you against radiation? And later, we'll discover why some people love this super-sized slime ball.